welcome back. Thanks for joining us for our 5th episode of Please Hold. I am one of your hosts, Ashley.
And I am Tiffany, and this is Please Hold.
So today, what are we talking about today, Tiffany?
The war between genders.
Yeah.
Gender wars.
Gender wars.
Yes.
Lack of pay.
Mm-hmm.
Are women better suited to be in customer service than men are?
I mean, when you look at it, it seems like yes, because women are more nurturing people and like can share in emotions and compassion and can sympathize, where I think men just mostly get to the point, let me just solve it. Instead of trying to make you feel better or try to get to the root of it, they're just like, men are like fixers.
Right.
They're just tools, hammers. Like, they just go in.
Tools, hammers.
They go in and hammer the situation out.
They're more straight to the point. Okay, y'all.
Okay.
They are tools and hammers. That's what men are. Okay? That's what Tiffany's...
I'm going to say that's all they are.
In the customer service world, that's what they are. They're just tools and hammers. Okay? Well, you know what? I had to do myself a little bit of research on why, like, because we always think about women being in customer service roles.
Right.
And when you call, majority of the time on a call center, there's majority of them are women, right? So I was like, where is this even coming from?
Or older men.
We know some ones. Like, you know, we come into contact with some of those men in the call center industry. But yeah, so I was like, let me go and do some research, you know, I love my little history lesson. So this dates back to World War One.
Good
right?
Lord, taking it way back.
We're going to take it all the way back. And so there was Henry Graham Bell, I think it was. I have my notes here.
Oh, super prepared this time.
You know, he basically had a switchboards that was, you know, making the calls from one place to another. Very old system that we don't obviously use anymore. But
the ones that like they plug into the wall and like a phone jack aux cord.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. And just plugging it in and then plugging it back in, taking it out, all that other weird stuff.
I just bet they had like really nice arms back then just because of how much they're plugging in and taking out all day long. Like they're really getting that exercise. Yeah. I know, but okay, that was off topic. Back to
hammers and tools are men, and the women had really nice arms. So yeah. But yeah, so he hired the first woman, and then the rest was history. But he was basically saying that it was like 3 factors. I've got my notes here. Teenage boys' attitude as operators were unacceptable, which I could definitely see that.
Yeah. They have bad attitudes today.
Yeah, for sure. Companies noticed that women were more courteous to callers. So kind of pinpointing back on what you were talking about. And then women were paid 1/2 to 1/4 of a man's salary. So for business wise, they were like, oh yeah, it's way cheaper for us to have women as workers than it is to have men.
So essentially we can blame the women from back then for taking lower pay, which has now caused women to have lower pay nowadays. I
don't know if women blame them, but definitely accepted it. But yeah, so because I mean, I don't really understand why we can go home to the whole suffrage movement and everything else like that. It's another podcast. But basically, yeah, it was easier to pay them because it was cheaper labor rather than having men on the force. So, but that kind of goes in. I know that we're going to have an episode coming up, talking about wages and how that math is not mathing. It's the numbers that don't make sense at all. And, why women are getting paid when, especially in an industry where like customer service, right, is a woman dominated industry. Like we basically kind of run that industry.
Yeah.
But, I was doing some more research is that to every one man customer service rep, there's 2 women. So like we definitely take over that industry for sure, but the opportunities for like leadership and are not always there. Like there's only, I think the UK did like a poll or where it was able to grab some data. It was like 48% of the women were like still in like smaller leadership manager roles, and they weren't able to get to like C-suite or VP or, any kind of like higher up leadership role. And I'm just kind of figuring like, okay, well, we have all of the soft skills of, empathy, like you said, being able to listen and, like those are the things that really compile up what makes a good leader, right? But yet we just aren't put into those roles.
Yeah. It's like a thing to like just keep women like at a certain level. Like granted, there are lots of women who are VPs and presidents and owners and, are in high positions, but it's not as much as men have. Or currently are. And it's just like a thing. And like, I don't know if like all the men are like congregating together somewhere of like, all right, we reached our 2% of women in, executive levels, no more for 5 years. Yeah. Like, and it's just like, but a lot of times I see like the men that are in the positions don't really either have less qualifications than women.
Not even qualified at all.
Yeah, we've known some, but we won't go back to episode 3 and 2, 1. But, yeah, I mean, they're just like, one, women have to prove themselves so much and give everything. Like, even, it was kind of goes back to me watching the new Barbie movie that came out. And, she was, one of the characters play in it were saying like, man, we have to be strong and powerful, but not too, and not too strong and not too powerful, and be compassionate, but not too soft, like you have to be like all these things, but not all those things. And it's just like, men don't have to do that. They just have to be, witty and maybe good looking in some cases. And, like, oh, he can probably do it. And, we'll just teach him. But like when it comes to teaching women, no, it's just like, I'm sorry, honey, you don't have those. You don't have the qualifications. You don't meet the standards. And we're like, yeah, but
Joe over here definitely doesn't meet the standards, y'all. Like for real. I mean, I got passionate about it. One of our last episodes about how can you get the experience when you're not giving the opportunity to have and gain experience. Right. And so it's just like, and that's like one of the things that always gets me all the time. And people are like, oh, well, you need more experience, but you're not, but it's like, well, how am I supposed to get it? Where is that coming from?
Right.
And it's very frustrating. And you really don't really sometimes see that until you kind of get into some of the more like corporate world, right? Like, if you're doing some of just like retail work or something like that, you don't really kind of see that. And I never really saw that. And I was like, what are people complaining about, all the time? And I'm like, it's, I feel like it's equal opportunity. No, it's not. No, it's not.
You started getting into those jobs that you got to go up the elevator and to the 44th floor and get to be like realize, oh, now I see what they're talking about. Like, not all positions are created equal. No. Between men and women and Black women and even black men or black men and white men. Like, it's all like, so, you know, there's differences for sure. And anybody who doesn't believe that, like, you have on rose-colored glasses or you're blind.
Yeah. And so another thing that they were talking about when I was looking at some research is just that, you know, women tend to go into customer service roles because it's an easy entry point. So I had seen something on LinkedIn and they were like, oh yeah, you know, women tend to go into customer service roles because they're stay-at-home moms, and this is a more flexible schedule for, like, I guess, call centers. What are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, we've worked in a call center before and hours are not that flexible. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, one, if you're working from home, you have to have a quiet environment. You know, one, if you're doing call center work and you're working from home, you can't have your kids running around. So you still have to have some sort of in-home daycare or, you know, a sitter, or your kids are in school. And even if your kids are, if you're doing that as a mother and your kids are at school, well, guess what? School don't end at 6:00.
Right.
It ends at 2:30, 3:00, you know, depending on where you live. And so that's either using your lunch break to go get your kids from school, or get them in the house and get them settled and make sure that they fed and get them quiet all within an hour.
Like, take this snack real quick.
You better take this snack. Get in that room. Be quiet for the next 5 hours before I get, you know,
Here's this tablet. Look at the tablet for the next 6 hours, and don't talk to me, and don't come over here and interrupt me at all.
Right. You put the chair up against the door.
Right.
Hey, do not come in here. Or I'm going to, you know, it's like there is because I remember having to do it. And I did it when I was pregnant. And then and this is like when I had first started at the company, and I had my baby, and I'm literally like, then we didn't have like any health insurance or like that. We didn't really have any benefits, at the company, like no like leave or anything like that. So like I had to take like sick time to have a baby and then come back and, you know, hold the baby and like, please God, for the next 8 hours, don't cry.
Don't cry.
My newborn baby, please don't cry for the next 8 hours while I talk to these customers on the phone. So yeah, like it's a very demanding job. You have to have like essentially a perfect work environment, and everything has to line up perfectly, you know, and then you have people, you know, watching you like a hawk, you know, like you got to tell them when you're going to go to the bathroom. You got to tell them when you're going to go to eat and when you're going to come back.
Your stomach hurts.
Right. I mean, there's just so many things. Like, so it's not like, yes, working from home, great. But it doesn't mean that it's like easy and flexible and like, oh, women get it because of those reasons. That is not true at all. No. You know, like anybody wants a work from home job. And I think now that we're starting to see, in this climate now, is that a lot of remote jobs are going back to work. Yeah. They're going back into the office.
Or at least a hybrid.
Right? Yeah, at least hybrid, 2-3 days back in the office, and I think that's a huge change in people's lives, especially when you took on a role that was remote.
Yeah.
Initially. And it was, a lot of companies made promise, oh, we're not going back to the office, or we're hiring you at, this is a remote role. So if you hired as a remote role, well, it should stay as a remote role. And then, now like you got to make all these changes in your life, in your whole life, in your family's life. People who do not work at the job,
right.
Are now impacted. Right. Your husband, your partner, whoever is now also being impacted. Your kids are being impacted. Your whole day is being impacted. Now you're, back to putting miles and whatever on your gas and all those things. It's just like, these companies just don't seem to realize, like, there's a lot that goes into when you just all of a sudden make a change. Like, okay, we're going to go back to the office. Like, do you realize the impact that it makes on people's life and how detrimental that is to them and to their families? Like, you're more likely to lose people. Now you got to go out and hire people, which then costs more, which we discussed in the previous episode. But I mean, this is a trickle-down effect. So just to go back to what you were saying, like, no, it's not an easy, they're taking customer service jobs. Women are taking customer service jobs because it's easier in the work from home. Like, that's... No, not at all.
No, I definitely agree. And like, when you were talking about, like, women are the caretakers in majority of families, right? They get home, they, you know, if they're working from home or if they're working from an office, they've got to come home, go to the grocery store if they don't have anything, get stuff for dinner. They've got to get kids settled. And it is impactful when you say, okay, now we're going to strip this, you know, remote job position from you and we're going to make you come into the office. And it's like, hey, I had the schedule like lined up here, was working for me and my family. And then now you guys are just stripping this away. Like, I can understand the fact that, yes, you want people to come in and you want to have like, and maybe do it like a hybrid situation, or maybe like, hey, we would like to see people in the office at least maybe 2 to 3 times out of the month, right? That's doable.
That's gradual.
Yeah, like gradual. Like, not to be like ripping off the Band-Aid, but like, oh, now y'all need to get your asses up in here. Like,
right. Next week, everybody back in the office. What?
Like,
excuse me?
Like, that's not going to work. And that it primarily, and I say this because it primarily affects women, right? Like, not only are like men being paid more already for the roles that women are qualified to do, but then when you make those massive changes within a company, or sometimes just departments, right?
Heard that.
Usually
just the customer service department.
It's usually just the customer service department. Those have those dramatic changes, and that's impacting, majority of the time, it's impacting women. And so it's like it's just like it's always like somewhat of like a lose-lose situation, and it's unfortunate. And especially with the pay, we got some, I don't know if y'all can hear this, but we got some thunder out there. Okay.
It's been storming in Atlanta lately.
Yeah, like, a lot.
Ridiculous.
I mean, I feel like I'm in the like tropics. It's supposed to be tropic thunder up in here.
I mean, I would be okay if it had a beach, but we're not.
Right. We don't have one. But yeah, so it is really unfortunate that it continues to impact women all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and something else to think about is like, you know, if you do decide to bring, you know, departments, company back to the office, like, add some things, or like, hey, we care about your well-being. We know that this is a shift in your life and in your household, to your, you know, your house, to your car, all that, to your pocket. It costs money to go into work. Like, I just saw a meme today. It's like, oh no, I'm staying at home because it costs like $300 just to go out the house.
Right.
You know, it literally does.
It
literally costs a lot of money to go, just to leave your house. So, you know, just like have some incentives to be like, hey, we know it's going to take, you know, a bit for, you know, to make those changes within your household. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to help you set up childcare if you need that, or we're going to give you a gas stipend, you know, for the next 2 months or 3 months or whatever, to help supplement that, because that wasn't something that you were doing before. You know, you weren't spending money on gas to come back and forth to work and things like that. Like, you know, just think more out of the box instead of just demanding, you know, your employees and not respecting their lives and the things that they have set up to be able to work for you. You know, you need people to work for you. You want people to work for you. You want to be a desirable company, right? And so you should continue to make the job desirable for the people that work there so that they stay there.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people will go where they feel wanted and appreciated and feel like there's opportunities for growth. And when you only offer that in the beginning and then it dies, you know, while people are there, like, people will leave, you know, and we see that nowadays. Like, you know, you don't really need, I saw a report about how it's okay that people jump from job to job. It used to be like, oh, you have to stay with companies for years and years. No, you don't. Like, if that doesn't work for you anymore, you went from this job to this job to this job, that's, hey, that is kind of is what it is nowadays. Like, you don't have to stay somewhere for 20 years, you know, because we've seen with our mom, like, it doesn't matter if you give a company 20 years of your life, they will let you go in a second if they don't like your salary is too high, or you're getting too old, or, you know, they want fresh eyes or fresh minds, and, you know, they'll just let you go. So it's like, what's the point of devoting 20 years and 15 years of your life to a company when they can cut you off for any reason?
Yeah.
You know, so it's just, I don't know. I wish things were different, and I wish companies, and a lot of times, not all the time, but I have seen it, that sometimes the people that are behind making those decisions in HR are women.
Yeah.
And you're
like, girl, are we like,
did you not think about, like, even though now it's not affecting you, but you're okay making those decisions to affect other people?
Yeah.
Especially when you know in that department is a lot of women who have kids, you know, families. And I'm like, because it doesn't affect you, just like, oh, whatever, they'll get to it. And like, why
or
is it
because you're making the big bucks, like enough money, maybe per se, and maybe that you have a supportive spouse at home, does not mean that everyone else that are not making the same amount that you are. So they maybe they're not able to just go ahead and afford maybe somebody who's a caretaker and after school, you know, someone to watch the kids after school, or a supportive spouse at home. Like, that's not always the case. So I like, that's a really good point. And I was also thinking too, I'm like, if the numbers are showing that your employees are doing well and the work is getting done and like there's no concerns, what is the point of moving people back into the office? And another thing, I'm like, can we stop like spending money on office space that's not needed? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. We saw, I'm going to say it lightly, but like, it was a waste of space, right? Especially going through like the whole pandemic, and we weren't there, but they continued to put money onto an office that just like that nobody was going to be occupying. And then really nobody still occupies that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Right. And so, yes, it is more cost like efficient just to have people work from home. Get them right. Get them set up. The one thing I did like about where we were working is that everybody came in with a stipend for a work from home, like, you know, setup, right? Like, no matter what, you know, your laptop, your stand, your monitor, your desk, your chair, all of that was, you know, they paid for, which they should. Like, I'm performing a job and a responsibility. I need the stuff in order to do that. But I did like that a lot. But it's just like, we don't need office space. Like, have company outings. Like, there's your team building. Like, there's plenty of other ways. Like, and like, if need be, like, there's plenty of workspaces to like say like, hey, we're going to do a company retreat, you know, off-site, you know, kind of event or whatever. There's plenty of opportunities, but I know you and I will always like find a way to get off topic. But, you know, it's just, I think, yes, women are great at customer service.
I mean, we're great at a lot of things. I'm just saying.
We are. But I do not think that I don't like the word that we're better suited for customer service, right? Like, we do it well because we have amazing soft skills to be able to tackle some of those really uncomfortable, crazy ass customers. Okay.
You know who you are.
Yeah, y'all know who you are. So, and the customers who are yelling in your ear and you can't hear yourself even think, like, those type of customers. Like, women know how to be able to take it down from a 9 down to a 6 and be able to kind of, and be soothing and be relatable. And I think that is what allows women to be, you know, be successful and excel in customer service roles, versus kind of like men, where they can be a little bit more dry. But we have seen that like men do really well in some customer service roles.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we had the one guy that was a rep, and he was just so soothing and just
like
people love talking to him.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I think it's definitely a personality trait for sure. Like if you have those characteristics that make you relatable and likable, and you're like, oh yeah, man, I feel like I was talking to myself.
Right.
You know, I could see myself calling back in because this person, not only did they help me and solve my issue, but they also just like, they calmed me down. Like, and that's what makes a really great customer service individual that's really focused on the customer, and it can take down these crazy, you know, psycho people, because we've seen it.
So it's not about your sex. It's about your personality.
Yeah.
You know, because we've seen a lot of women, and we've, you know, seen it online, and women get hot-headed too, and like, hey, we're going to meet you on that same level. Yeah. You know, and can end up, you know, hollering and going into like a little pissing match with you too. So it's just like, it's not really about whether a man, woman, you know, whatever, like it's about your personality. Mm-hmm. Can you stay calm under pressure? You know, can you be relatable? Can you be respectful? You know, can you be empathetic to someone's situation that they have going on, and realizing that, you know, there's other things that are going on in people's life and they may just be taking it out on you. Like, sure, everyone has done that once in their life, is taking their anger out on someone who didn't really deserve it, but just happened to be, you know, there, and, you know, was kind of got the brunt of it. But it's just like, women are great at it. Great. But that ain't the only thing that we're great at. We have a lot of things that we're good at.
A lot of things.
Right.
But that, I mean, I guess, Tiff, I mean, that kind of goes into our next episode, right?
Yeah. Ma'am, I cannot hear you because you're yelling in my fucking ear.
Is literally what the name of the next episode is. Is literally, ma'am, I can't hear you because you're yelling in my fucking ear. So, I mean, I guess it's like a great segue for us kind of to jump into that one. But I think we've covered this one pretty well.
Yeah, it does. I mean, so I think that if you guys, like, I want to hear from you all too. Like, what is your opinion? Maybe we should put a poll out there. Like, what do people think about, you know, roles? Are certain roles, doesn't have to be customer service, but do certain roles require men versus women, or vice versa? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think this is a good one, and, you know, we'll get ready for our next one.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Well, as we always do, cheers. Yes. And
cheers. So please follow, subscribe to our IG. It's pleasehold_podcast on Instagram. You can email us at info@pleaseholdpodcast. Yeah, and tune in next week to hear about, why do people yell in other people's ear to get their point across? All right. See y'all next week. Bye.